Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Digitally Uploaded podcast, the companion podcast to digitallydownloaded.net. I am Matt, and I am here. I am the editor-in-chief of the website thing, and we have a packed podcast for you this week. Absolutely packed podcast. We'll start by introducing our guest, because we do have a special guest this week, Lachlan from Locked Up Games. He's got a new very fan-servicey thing out, and we're going to be talking about that today. So, hello, Lachlan. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Matt. Glad to be back.
Yes, you've been on a couple of times now. I'm sure the long-time listeners, all two of them, are are tuned in and looking forward to hearing your insights about Max's Big Bust 2. Max's Bigger Bust. I think that's the name of it, isn't it? Did I get that right?
That's it.
Cool. All right. We also have New Zealand Matt. Hello, New Zealand Matt.
Hello.
Thank you on behalf of the entire world for re-electing Jacinta. We appreciate that.
You're welcome.
After watching the American presidential debate yesterday, I'm very glad at least one country did something right.
That was all me. I was entirely responsible.
It was all you? Good.
Yep.
I'm glad for that.
Yep.
It's all good. It's all good fun. We're going to be talking about Sakuna of Rice and Rain, you and I, later on in the podcast, because, we've both been playing it and we have thoughts about that one. That's good. So I'm giving away all the podcasts right now. It's like it's a proper introduction I'm doing. I'm amazed. We're actually productive or something right now. Hello, Harvard. Welcome to the stream. Harvard's back.
Hello. I didn't realize we were a political podcast.
We're very political, highly political, because it's video games.
Kick politics out of games.
We're not Ubisoft here. And finally, we also have another regular, Trent. Hello, Trent.
Hello. I thought when you started the whole introduction, you would just be like, "Yeah, we've got a special guest," and just go straight to be like, "Trent's here." And it's just like,
well, you are very special to us, but I did mean a proper not person from the regular podcast person.
Troll everyone.
Anyway, you've been playing a Watch Dogs thing, so you might even have some words to say about Ubisoft yourself, which is pretty cool. Yeah,
opinions. I don't know.
The highly political environment.
I don't want to do a Matt. And when's this podcast out?
It'll be out in time for your embargo. Don't you worry. So you'll be able to say things about the highly unpolitical game about Resistance or something, isn't it? Who knows? I don't follow Ubisoft anymore. Not since they put Pumas in their Viking game. No, not Pumas. Which one? Reeboks. Reeboks. They put Reeboks in their Viking game. Yeah,
I thought you meant the animal Puma.
No, I got
the shoe Reebok.
The shoe. I got a press release. I got a press release from Ubisoft that was the Reebok sponsored Valhalla. So. Yeah, the new Assassin's Creed game is actually sponsored by a shoe.
They don't wear them in the game, do they?
I thought it was the other way around. Yeah, I thought it was.
No, I'm only joking about that. They don't wear them in the game, but I wouldn't put it past them yet. There's still time to do the DLC. It'll happen. You just watch. It'll be Vikings.
So you also just observed that
sporting really cool.
I don't care what the game or genre or time period is. Having sneakers in games is always good.
Yeah, the Vikings should maybe run quicker.
I'm still not quite sure about that game because, historically, the Berserkers they went completely nude when they did their thing. So, is that happening in this game? Are we going to see?
They have Reebok tattoos this time.
Are they going to get the whole Norman Reedus thing from Death Stranding going? Because
maybe the shoes for a different location.
Oh, they've got that real world nonsense, don't they?
Yeah.
I forgot they were still doing that.
They find a way to use that to transport shoes to Viking times.
Assassin's Creed. Okay, we're going to go to some music, and then we're going to talk about the games of November, which probably actually includes Assassin's Creed. I don't know when it releases. Lachlan, you're the guest, and I assume you're on some level a Hatsune Miku fan, so you get to pick the Hatsune Miku song. We always give that to the guests.
Vaguely prepared. The only Miku song I know is the one by Anamanaguchi, so I think it's just called Miku. It's a bit lame, but it's a Miku song I've listened to. So
that's the lead song they used for the American tour. That's a good song. Miku's in your Wi-Fi.
That's the one. Haha, I've got a Miku song this time.
Welcome back, everybody. Okay, so after that introduction set the mood for what is going to be a fascinating podcast, let's talk about the games of November, as we always start each podcast off with a chat about what's coming, and November is going to be pretty packed, I think. November generally is pretty packed. It's when all the big releases come out, and this year there's going to be plenty of that and plenty of smaller stuff too. So let's look at the PlayStation 4 first up, and we'll start with what is surely going to be the biggest game of the year, Paw Patrol Mighty Pups Save Adventure Bay. That's going to be...
You say that. You say that. Is it based off the current Paw Patrol game?
Who knows? It comes out on November 6th.
So that game is the most amazing hot trash platformer ever. Like,
I'm disappointed. I mean, Paw Patrol, I would have thought XCOM clone. That'd be the way I'd go personally.
No, so they've already got a platformer, and it's just so bad. Like, it's janky, it's horrible, and then you just every so often randomly get to a spot, and it's like, which Paw Patrol should help you out here, Sonny? And you go, I want this Paw Patrol, and then you're like, no, that's not the right one, and then you click on the right one, and it's like, okay, awesome, and then it does the sequence, and then you get to some more platformers, and then eventually.
In conclusion, Trent has young people in his family somewhere. Actually, winding back one day...
Trent is a young person.
Winding back one day on November 5, there's a game coming out called Ponpu. Now, I don't know anything about Ponpu, but the description is pretty cool. It says the all-seeing duck god has enough and the world has run out of time. Now, that's it. That's the description. Oh, hang on, there's a little bit more here.
So you're saying the dog's gone... the dog. But the god's gone... The duck god's gone quackers.
Yeah, the god's gone quackers. Every 2 billion years, the world must be refreshed through divine destruction, and he has sent you a Ponpu as his herald. So you play as the herald of the duck god that is going to destroy the entire world. That's pretty cool. I mean, I'm in for this game.
Is this a Donald Duck game?
I don't know. I don't care.
It sounds like it should be.
It sounds like it should be a Donald Duck game, and I'm all for this. So let's file that one away as a game I'm probably going to love. After Fight Crab and that alpaca football game, I'm all for a Duck God game as well. Moving on. November 6th brings Need for Speed Hot Pursuit Remastered, so people who like their vroom vrooms get a vroom vroom this year. November 10 brings Sakuna of Rice and Rain, which we mentioned earlier in the podcast, and both Matt and I have been playing that in previous stage and absolutely love it. I think I'm not talking for you there, Matt. I guessed that right. You loved it, right? It's good.
No, I'm kidding. It's really good.
Yeah, there we go. Had me in suspense there for a second. November 10 brings 13 X111111 XIII, the Roman numerals, The Roman numerals 13 remake comes out on November 10. That was actually, I didn't mind that one originally on the PS2. That's the cell-shaded shooter.
But it's not cell-shaded now. It's.
Oh well, then I'm not interested. I'm out.
What's the point?
Yeah, exactly. I'm genuinely I'm out.
That's the best thing about it.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not going to bother. If
they remastered out the only good thing about it.
Yeah, that's it. How not to do a remaster. Also on November 10th, so there is something I can play instead. Yakuza Like a Dragon. That's going to be cool. Turn-based Yakuza game. Dude has good hair. It's going to be good. What else we got? Moving through. Assassin's Creed Valhalla comes out on November 10. There you go. Vikings with Reeboks strapped over their junk. That's going to be the game. Cool. I'm scrolling through looking for the next thing. There's quite a lot of indie stuff happening then for a little while. Farming Simulator 19 Alpine Farming Expansion comes out on November 12. I laugh, but I'm gonna. Yeah, an expansion for it. I laugh, but I'm going to spend a lot of time playing that, I'm sure. For some reason, every time DLC or whatever comes out for that stuff, I just have to play it. On November 12, Death Come True comes out. Now, that was released on Nintendo Switch earlier in the year. It's a FMV game from the creator of Danganronpa, and it is excellent. It is pristine good stuff. I highly recommend that if you haven't played it before. On November 13, Kingdom Hearts Melody of Memory comes out. Now, I played that in demo form. It's very good. It is basically Theatrhythm on the 3DS, but instead of Final Fantasy music, it's Kingdom Hearts music. So, good. 140 music tracks, you promised. I only played 4 in the demo, so that was a bit cheap from Square Enix. They could have given us like 10.
Does it have like The World Ends With You music? Because technically that's been in Final Fantasy. Kingdom Hearts too. Which means that there should be music.
Who knows, Trent? I really honestly do not know what music they're actually putting in there. I was just ignoring that game for the longest time because it's Kingdom Hearts and I can't stand Kingdom Hearts, the series. But the demo, the rhythm game stuff is pretty good. And Donald's
the music is good.
The music's good. The music's very good. I agree. And Donald's in there. Donald's pretty cool. On November 17, Santa's Xmas Adventure. That's going to be cool. As everybody knows, Santa Claus makes for good video games. There's never been a bad video game star on Santa.
Why is that coming out in November?
I don't know. They need to capitalize on people buying it for Christmas, I guess. It's better than releasing it in January, Matt.
I guess so.
That's one of the games you don't want to delay. That's one of the one times you probably do need to crunch to make sure it gets out in time, because if it's in January, then there's just no point. Okay, so November 19 brings a game that I think a lot of people are looking forward to, but Cyberpunk 2077 comes out on November 19, and it's going to be Cyberpunk in name only. I think that's pretty safe to say. I haven't played a bit of it, but it's just aesthetics.
Aren't we just agreeing that the only Cyberpunk game is that indie game, and we're just ignoring Cyberpunk now? Isn't that what the internet's doing because of all the crunch and all the other stuff?
I can't remember the name of it, but the Cyberpunk game from China actually looks much better as a Cyberpunk thing. This one just looks like it's a CD Projekt Red game with guns and stuff. And somewhere right now, Alan's head is blowing up that he's not here to yell at me for saying things.
Alan's crying when he's editing this.
Yep, he's not going to be happy at all. November 19 brings Poker Card. If you like poker, you're probably going to like this game. It's got very high production values, very, very high production values, and it plays poker, so cool. What else we got? One more game in November for the PlayStation 4, Katamari Damacy Reroll, which will be good. I don't know if that's like the Switch one, but now on PS4. Cool. Well, that was very good on the Switch, so you should definitely check it out on the PlayStation 4. And then finally, it's a December game, but I wanted to mention it here because when we record the December podcast, by the time it's out, the game will probably be out anyway because it's December 1, and that's Empire of Sin. That's a XCOM-like, being developed by John Romero himself, the man. Ooh. So hopefully it's not like Daikatana. Hopefully it's more like Doom. But
surely he's learned.
No, Daikatana was good. It was fun. It had good music.
Yeah. Moving on. Nintendo Switch.
But while we're on December 1 games, let's also briefly mention Twin Mirror, which is the new Don't Nod game. The other new Don't Nod game aside from the one that came out on Xbox earlier this year.
Yes, true.
They do good stuff, so it'll be good.
Yes, anything Don't Nod touch is pretty much gold, so Twin Mirror should be very good as well. December, that's going to be the month for games. November, talking about Switch now. What's coming out on Switch? We'll start with the start of the month again. I'm just scrolling through the list now. There's an awful lot of stuff coming out at the end of October for Switch, so I've got to do a lot of scrolling. Fucking hell, there's a lot. There's Pikmin coming out on October 30, just so you know, if you missed it, it's still coming. Look forward to that. Pikmin's pretty good. Alright, we're now in November on my little list. We have nothing at the start of November, nothing really worth talking about anyway. Still going. Cafe Enchante comes out on November 5. That is Otome game. That is by the same developer of whatever that one was. That was Pio Fiore.
Yeah, Pio Fiore.
Yeah, same developer as that one, and I was absolutely amazed by that game when I played it last month. I think at this stage, most people who are interested in Automate games know about Automate and know what they do. So expect more of that with Cafe Enchante. Apparently, it's a little bit lighter than Pio Fiore. Or a lot lighter.
That's not hard, but
yeah, Pio Fiore was pretty brutal on my soul. So this one should be a nice, lighter, relaxing visual novel as such. Speaking of visual novels, on the same day, on the complete opposite to Automate, there is Fantasy Tavern Sextet Volume 1, New World Days coming out. Now that's a super-fanservicey visual novel, the first of 3, and yeah, you probably know what I'm talking about just from that description, really. That's all you need.
When they say sextet, they mean like a 6 of something, right?
Yes, but I can assure you it's also wordplay. They deliberately picked 6 characters so they could use that word in the headline, in the title. Tropico 6 apparently comes out on Switch on November 6th. That'll be good. I've been waiting for a good city builder, genuine city builder on the Switch since the port of City Skylines suck on the Switch. So hopefully Tropico does better. I'd be very happy about that if it does. Sakuna for Ice and Rain also releases on Switch on November 10, same day. There's a game called Slide Stars that's coming out on Switch. Know nothing about it, but the box art has like a dude and a girl in a bikini, so it's art.
Very low bar event. This one.
Yeah, Santa's Xmas Adventure also comes out on the Switch, so you can look forward to that. That comes out.
Really low bar of entry.
Buy it twice.
Buy it twice. I'm sure it's going to be that good. Kingdom Hearts Melody and Memory does come out on Switch as well, same day again, November 13. Probably the one you want to go with because rhythm games are just better when they're portable. Need for Speed Hot Shoot Remastered comes out on November 13 for Switch, so a couple of weeks after it does elsewhere. Who knows with EA? It's probably terrible. They don't know how to work with the Switch. Sniper Elite 4 comes out on November 17 for Switch. That's a remastered, or not remastered, that's a optimized release for the console. And I believe the Sniper Elite games actually do pretty good on the Switch. So that one will probably be worth looking forward to. Finally, a Switch game worth talking about. Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity comes out on November 20. That's the same day as Cyberpunk, I think.
Day after.
And I mean, let's face it, we all know which one's going to be actually genuine and delivers what it's promising on the box art. You're going to get Hyrule Warriors with Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity, and it's looking really good. Koei Tecmo knows their stuff, and monitored as they will be by Nintendo, I'm sure that one will be up to the standards of the first one, which was very high. And then finally on the Switch, November 26, Brawl Chess. I don't know, maybe one of those kind of fighting chess games, or possibly not chess at all.
Because what I just
these days
was
they
like,
throw chess into everything.
It was like a chess game, but like it's Street Fighter game. So you're just chess pieces, and you just like battle. I want that. There's your new crab fighting game.
All right, you make that game and I'll play it for you, Trent. All right, that's basically it. Unless there's something that's actually releasing on Xbox or PC that I haven't noticed.
Xbox on next gen, it's getting the Tetris Effect multiplayer. That's an exclusive thing. So yeah. There's something which is somewhat time exclusive for November. I don't know about anything else because I'm not excited for anything else. So that's just next gen.
Why would
you want multiplayer in Tetris Effect?
Because you play together because it's COVID. Don't you know everything's all about COVID? We're not allowed to say COVID, but you're playing together.
Trent, I put it to you.
Think of a game that
Tetris
suits multiplayer.
Yeah, and let's be clear here. Tetris Effect is good because of VR mode, and the Xbox don't do that. So you're still probably better off just playing it on PlayStation. Get yourself a VR headset and play it.
I have it on PlayStation. That's why I play it. That's why I know it's good. That's why I know it's got great music. That's how I know it's awesome. But on the PC, you can have like a huge resolution. You can have it like a 4K, 8K Tetris Effect. That looks pretty neat.
Cool. Yeah. Okay, so that's the game you're looking forward to this month, Trent. You don't get to say another one now.
What?
Trapped you. Lachlan, you've been quiet and while we've been running through all of these lists. So, tell me, of all of those games, if you get to pick one and play just the one, which one are you going to play this month?
Can I be an outlier and pick something not on the list?
Yeah.
I'm excited for Demon's Souls Remastered on PS5, but I have to play it at my dad's house. He's the one getting the PlayStation.
That comes out. Yes, it does count. I don't have a list for the PlayStation 5 here, and
there's like 3 games.
Yeah, that's right.
Like the only one.
Yeah,
I wasn't pulling up.
This is the only new one too.
Yeah,
you can't even really call it new.
I'm looking forward to Demon's Souls a great deal as well. I'm not getting a PlayStation 5, so I won't be able to play it at launch, but I will play it at some point. Unfortunately, I must just say, I'm a little bit disappointed with what they seem to have done with the remake with that game, because I'm a bit of a Demon's Souls purist, I guess, and I really liked pretty much everything about that original game. It's still my favorite Souls game.
Oh, me too.
And it looks like they're messing with it in all the wrong ways with this remaster. It just looks like they've cleaned it up, and it isn't meant to be clean. It's like this dirty, grim kind of, unpleasant game to look at almost. And
I'd like to see it in person. Like, this is all ideal, 8K, etc. But when they've actually got it at home on like my crappy TV.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm still
maybe it'll work in its favor.
I'm still hoping against hope that it just doesn't look what I want, in the screenshots and the video. But once I play it, I'll be very happy with it. I've got my hopes up for it, but I don't know. I just don't know at this stage. Demon's Souls was good because it was done on such a low budget and it was done without expectations, and they were a little bit more creative with it. It had a stronger artistic vision for me, and since they've tempered that to make it a little bit more mainstream appeal, I think. And
I preferred the length too.
Yeah, the length was good. Everything about the game was better designed, I think. So yeah, who knows? But let's just add that to the list as a game worth looking forward to, I guess. Matt, pick your game. One game, any game.
I'm going to pick another one that we haven't mentioned, which is Spider-Man Miles Morales, which comes out for PS4 and PS5 in November. Which is I enjoyed the PS4 Spider-Man game, but I think Miles Morales is a much more interesting character than Peter Parker and a much more fun Spider-Man. So I'm looking forward to seeing what they do with that and how they are able to expand what the previous game did. Yeah, that's me.
It'll be another open world action game, I think.
It will be.
that's what I'm thinking it'll be. Yeah. I mean, I enjoyed the Spider-Man game enough to, but whether I want to go back for more of that is another question. And as good as Miles is as a character, I'm not. I don't know. I don't know if they just kind of try to shove a square through a circular hole to.
He didn't do much in the base game, really. Like he just did some stealth sections with him.
Yeah. I mean, who knows? I'm sure it'll be good. Everybody liked the original Spider-Man, so if they just deliver that, then people will be happy. Which is ultimately
it's called a HD remaster.
As long as people are happy, that's all that matters in the life. That's what video games are here for. Harvard, I haven't asked you yet.
I am down for the Kingdom Hearts rhythm game. Like, I am so excited. But did you say there was only 130 tracks? Only
140.
140.
Yeah.
That makes me think, I wonder how much licensing they got for the Disney songs. Because the arrangements for the Disney songs in some of the early Kingdom Hearts games are actually just really, really good. But I wonder if they got the rights to them.
They paid about $300 million to get the rights to the Frozen song, and that's it. That's the one Disney song, because of course they threw that in there because they have to, and I hate that song.
That's the worst Disney song ever.
I know, and yet it's the most played. Factually, it is the most played Disney song in history. That is the song that they just—it's like not constant.
Because it's the most relevant. Like it speaks to us generation.
It makes me cry.
If you're not a contrarian, this makes you a contrarian now.
I like the Moana song.
Yeah.
The Moana song is very lovely.
I skipped the Let It Go scene in Kingdom Hearts 3. Nope.
Yes. Nope. Do I need to see this?
Nope.
Man. That makes me less excited. I'm still going to play it, but it's still sad now.
140 songs is actually a lot, to be honest.
Yeah, but Theatrhythm's like 240, right?
Yeah, but that was.
You won't have Final Fantasy in it, though. That's the thing. They've been moving away from it as much as they possibly can for some reason.
Theatrhythm also had a lot of DLC that got it to that point. And they were just kind of went way beyond Final Fantasy. It was like any Square Enix game, let's put some DLC in there, which is great. But hopefully they do the same with Kingdom Hearts, because Theatrhythm's not on Switch, and that's a problem.
It's also got like a story mode, which that doesn't really inspire me, because Kingdom Hearts story is just it's like having your teeth pulled and then stuck back in and then pulled back out again. But
I'm gonna die on that hill. I still think it's a pretty good story.
Oh, I don't know.
I am well and truly Stockholm syndrome.
Only if you've somehow managed to play every single Kingdom Hearts game in order and then in reverse order, just to do a deal with the devil or something, and then you can understand what's going on, and then you can
summary movies.
And then
watch the summary movies.
I don't have 20 hours of time to watch summary movies. I'm not catching up with Kingdom Hearts at this point. So if that's
only 5.5 hours, I think.
if that Kingdom Hearts story mode in Melody of Memory is in some way related to Kingdom Hearts, I'm tapping out. But yeah, I mean, there's 20 characters in there. The rhythm game action is really good. I've really enjoyed that. 3 difficulty levels, and on the highest difficulty level, it will challenge pretty much anybody who enjoys rhythm games. It's not quite as hard as a Miku game, but what is? But yeah, it should be good. Rhythm games are good. High-profile rhythm games are good. We don't get that many of them, so good on Square Enix for delivering that. And now it's for me. I guess the only person left that hasn't mentioned what game they're looking forward to. It's got to be Call of Duty Black Ops. I didn't mention that in the list. It's coming out. Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War comes out on November 13, and I just skipped that over completely. And of course, I'm going to play that and love it a great deal. That's it. That's the section.
What? You actually don't have a legit game which you're playing? What?
No.
Not even Yakuza?
No, I can't really mention Yakuza or Sakuna because I've kind of already played them a little bit anyway. In previous stage.
Can we just respect the fact that Trent called accidentally breaking embargo pulling a Matt earlier this podcast?
Yeah, pulling a Matt. No, okay. I'll pick one genuinely. I am kind of interested in this Assassin's Creed game. I think it is a lot to do with my residual love for Assassin's Creed from the earlier games, especially
me too, actually.
AC3. I really love Liberation. Liberation's still my favorite Assassin's Creed. I quite enjoyed Rogue. Not so much Black Flag, but Rogue was great. And I've enjoyed some of the ones since then. I really did not like the turn they took with Origin, and then that last one, Odyssey, was just not for me. So
I think I played Odyssey because of Origin. I played a bit of Odyssey, and I liked it a bit better. But the Origin really put me off the series after being really into the series again with things like the London one and stuff like that.
Yeah. I think it's the same. Like when they went all Destiny with the leveling up system, and they just went loot grindy, and they just threw every single system that's been mildly popular into this game, and it just lost its identity as Assassin's Creed. I completely lost the history of those two, I must admit, and that really killed it for me. I got so into like the systems. I was forced to focus so heavily on the systems in Origin and Odyssey that I just couldn't enjoy the stuff about the game that I enjoyed, which was basically, the same reason that I like Samurai Warriors or Dynasty Warriors, the historical context games, which have a bit of gameplay thrown in. My expectations for Valhalla are very tempered, but I do want to check it out just because it was my blockbuster series that I liked above them all. So residual interest in the series is going to get me to play this one. This is Ubisoft's last chance though with this series. If they screw this one up on me, I really don't care. I don't care if the next one after this is set in Japan. I am not playing another Assassin's Creed if they fuck.
You'll play the Japan one. You're lying.
Let's put it this way: it's in rumors again that there's a Japan and China one, so it's obviously not going to be in Japan and China. So.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, logic says that they will go to Asia at some point, but
they'll go through another side game probably.
Yeah, at the moment they're still too busy doing white man games.
See, I suggested on Twitter, like one of the Baltic countries that could be interesting history while still being white for them. Like, it's that there's European history which they can do, which isn't let's go back to Paris.
If they're not going to do an Asian one, I still want to see them do like colonial Australia, where you get to play as an Aboriginal assassin. That would be cool.
Yes.
That would be so cool. Resisting the colonial POMs would be really neat. It would be.
You cross a lot of fingers to think they would do that one right.
Well, that's the thing. I do give Ubisoft credit in the sense that when they do approach different cultures, they do their best to be sensitive to them. So the Assassin's Creed series has generally been pretty good with that. And I would hope, I say that I would like to see an Assassin's Creed Australia with the expectation that they would do it right. Obviously, I would not want to see them do it wrong. But yeah, that would be a really cool concept and opportunity to highlight that, just how terrible it was all back then for the Aboriginal people. But yeah, Assassin's Creed Valhalla, I'll give it a play, especially if they're berserkers with shoes strapped to their junk. That would be pretty.
I don't know how we got onto that, but sure.
It's a mental image I'm not going to lose anytime soon. All right, music time. Let's go to Trent. There you go, Trent. Oh, actually, you said you like the music on Tetris.
Tetris, yes. The first track's pretty cool. The whatever that one is, the one with a really orchestrated singing. That's good. That's a good track.
Welcome back, everybody. That was Tetris Effect. Good music, good game. Play it. Preferably in VR, but if not, there is always that Xbox option coming out. So, we are going to... We kind of preempted a little bit of this conversation in the last section because we're talking about the PlayStation 5 and our difficulty with not necessarily being able to play the one game that's interesting on it so far. But the last couple of weeks have been a nightmare for anybody who is prone to feeling fear of missing out with all the big games and releases and stuff, because both Sony and Microsoft decided to release their consoles in the middle of a pandemic where they haven't been able to create enough units of those consoles to actually get them out to enough people that are interested in them, and as a result it has been an absolute, to use a swear word, an absolute clusterfuck for anybody who's been trying to get one of these things. And as a result, we have seen that a lot of people have missed out, and we thought that'd be an interesting topic to talk about, whether this fear of missing out is a good thing for the video game industry, whether we ourselves fear it, I guess, or feel it, I guess, and whether it was perhaps irresponsible to release consoles in the middle of a pandemic when you can't create enough units to fulfill demand. Let's start with Matt. Matt, did you get either of these consoles? Let's start with that.
I got a PlayStation 5.
Congratulations.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
I feel filthy saying it.
You should got the Xbox.
Hype got the better of me, and I had to order one.
Did you fear of missing out when you were ordering that PlayStation? Did you buy it because there was anything on there that you really, really wanted, or because it was the hot technology that you kind of felt like you needed to have?
I think it was more the latter. There are a few things on it that I am looking forward to, particularly Demon's Souls and
Wait, what?
The new Astro. Wait, what?
Matt, you're looking forward to a Souls game?
I know, it's unusual. I blame Neo too.
And Neo 2's just kind of brutalized you into loving the genre.
Like, all right, well, I guess I like these dumb, angry games that make me angry now. Yeah, and like the new Astro's Playroom kind of thing looks fun.
Because you're a huge fan of the VR one too.
Yeah, the VR one was great. So, and I mean a few of the other things that are coming to PlayStation 4 as well. Like obviously the Miles Morales, as I said before, and the new Sackboy game looks like fun. But yeah, I think it was mostly it's the new technology, and I want to have it.
Yeah, and I mean, of course, once you have it, then you don't need to buy it again for when other games start to come out. I think it will be a fairly slow transition to the next generation, because they're just going to take that long before enough people have units that you can be a PlayStation 5 only game and sell good numbers without Sony throwing money at you as well. So yeah, there will be PlayStation 4 and last gen versions of pretty much every game that's releasing for quite some time yet. But
I think the other thing for me that was appealing is my PlayStation 4 was a launch console as well, and it's getting old and rickety. So knowing that PS5 can play pretty much every PS4 game, it feels like more of just upgrading my PS4 rather than getting a whole new console.
Yeah, I want to ask about that actually. Sorry to interrupt, but if you get like a launch console, right? Do you think most people buy the midway upgrade as well? Like they start off with a launch PS4 and they get the PS4 Pro?
I think a lot of people do. I didn't, and I don't generally, but
I mean, I think it depends on if you wear your PlayStation 4 out in time. I went through my PlayStation 4, which wasn't a launch model, but it was damn close. I think it was in like 4 or 5 months of the console launch, and I got my PS4, and it died. So I did just buy a PS4 Pro because there was still time to go before the PlayStation 5 released. So yeah, I mean, obviously those mid-console cycles are designed for two things. One, to get the residual players and on board that maybe didn't buy the original model. But also, yeah, it's a replacement console for the people who have had their consoles die, because these days stuff is only manufactured to last 3 or 4 years. So,
Yeah, mine's definitely getting a bit rickety, and I'm considering what I want to do about getting the next generation or whatever. The thing is, because I feel like the first release units always have some kind of flaw attached to them as well that only gets fixed up in an iteration or two, which makes me more apprehensive to get the PS5 at launch too, because I imagine something's probably going to be a little bit knobbly about it.
well, I can't imagine anything in the hardware, because the hardware is basically like the in terms of the controller, in terms of the way you interact with the console, whatever, all of that stuff. I think it's pretty much standardized. You're not going to get an entirely new experience there. I think.
Oh yeah, I know, but like the problem with my PS4 is like a button is not working for some reason.
That would be a manufacturing error that you can send back to the console to get warranty covered. That's what warranty exists for. You do have a solid year of coverage before to work out that the button doesn't work. So I think there is definitely the state that consoles are in at the start of the generation cycle is definitely nothing like they are at the end. But these days it's more software updates, and certainly the PlayStation 5 will have plenty of those over its lifespan, I'm sure. But Trent, you got an Xbox, didn't you?
Yes, I bought it on the Telstra plan.
Congratulations to you, sir. You got next gen too.
Sorry?
I said you got them to the next gen as well, so that's good. But same question I asked Matt that I'm going to ask you. Did you jump on because it was Microsoft told you that you needed this Xbox, or did you jump on because there was something on the Xbox that you needed to have right away?
Probably more, I was going to buy a next generation console, either regardless. Yeah. I think I probably would have been a little bit more if I got a pre-order which was on a later pre-order. I wouldn't really have cared much if I bought it the more traditional way. So the Telstra thing was like, oh, well, it's evened out over the 24 months, and is actually a pretty good deal if you look at the pricing and how much they actually charge you more. And like it works out to be, you're essentially paying recommended retail price for the ultimate package and the console. So it works out okay. Like you're not being, Telstra's not charging you a lot for that privilege. So that seemed the most logical way to buy the Xbox, and I was lucky that I was up at 8 o'clock and I was able to do like pre-order and get the first batch. Telstra in general seemed to be a little bit better in terms of getting later Xboxes and pushing them through as well. So a lot of people which were on the second wave or the third wave ended up being pushed a lot more quickly than EB Games to the first waves. So stock was not an issue there. In terms of why I went for the Xbox, I think probably I just wanted a next gen console probably. So it was probably a little bit of fear of missing out, I guess. But that said, though, all I'm going to play really is probably Yakuza, because this is the next gen version, is time exclusive for the Xbox. Outside of that, probably not really a lot at the moment is really grabbing my attention in terms of what I really wanted that console for outside of the usual releases, which are on the current gen. And in terms of what I will I'll probably eventually get a PlayStation. I'll probably eat 50 more burgers from Hungry Jack's and win one.
I guess
in
that
Australia as well, that competition. I thought there was only in America.
In Australia there's 50 consoles, so obviously a lot less. But no, we've got the same promotion here.
Why do they hate New Zealand so much?
I don't know. Maybe you should fly to Australia for a bit, get some Hungry Jacks.
After some appropriate quarantining first, please.
Yeah.
To be fair though, you technically only need to purchase it. So you could just buy me Hungry Jacks and then use your receipts to win the console, and then that works out.
Is
I might
it
just
cheaper than buying the console?
Yeah, just buy the console. That's what I would do.
Well, if you
I'm
not
buy
buying
one burger and win one, then it's probably cheaper.
Yeah, but then you still got to eat the burger, otherwise it's a waste. Jacks. Hungry Jacks. Moving on. So Harvard, I guess you don't have either. You're like me. You don't actually have either of these next-gen consoles locked in.
No, I don't have either.
But given that what you said before about being concerned about the technical elements of the console, I'm guessing you're not feeling too much FOMO right now.
Yeah, I think just from my experience with getting the PS4 pretty close to launch, I had nothing but Resogun on my PS4 for a good few months.
You say
And
that
I was
like it's a
thinking, like,
problem.
Resogun's great.
You say that like it's a problem.
Yeah,
like
Resogun's great.
Resogun is a game worth buying a PS4 at launch for.
Oh, absolutely. But still, that's like, what could have gotten that a few months later for a cheaper price than a non-faulty console, you know? That being said, though, for the sake of balance, I think when Nintendo announces their inevitable next project, I am FOMOing so hard into that. I got the Switch at launch, and I was extremely happy with it. And even if I'm not happy with the next one, they're probably going to have some package to give me some more GBA games or whatever, and I'll be happy with that.
Yeah, it's funny. I always buy Nintendo consoles at launch as well. I got burned pretty hard on the 3DS at first, but then I got my Fire Emblem GBA on as a gift for an apology for screwing up that launch, and that was a pretty good gift. Yeah, that was pretty neat. What do they call it? The early adopter
Ambassador program.
The ambassador program. That's it.
That was a great thing.
Yeah, 10 free Super NES games, 10 free NES games. That was it. Then I sold on the 3DS.
Games. I remember the Minish Cap was part of it.
Yeah, GBA.
Oh,
GBA and NES.
GBA and NES games. You got 10 of each. So yeah, it was a really good console, but it did have a terrible launch, and I got burned on that hard. But the Switch was an immediate transition. As soon as the Switch came out, I fell in love with that console. The launch was good, and I was very happy with it. But yeah, this is the first time, I think, in quite a long time, that I'm feeling a little bit of FOMO, and I'm not quite sure if it's because, as a games journalist, I'm kind of fucked if I don't have these consoles. But yeah, I don't know. Not having the review for, whether it's because I can't get a review for Demon's Souls up on the site straight away, or it's because I actually want these consoles, I'm not entirely sure yet. I look at the PS5 and I see a whole lot of content and a whole lot of stuff I'm not interested in. Not a whole lot of stuff that I care about. I know it's coming, and maybe I just want the console so I can have the console. That being said, the fact that I won't have one at launch is pretty good, because I have time to work out just how much space in my living room I need to clear to actually put the console in. Because, have you seen this thing? It's huge. It is massive. It is a ridiculously big bit of hardware.
It's the size of a building.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it.
It's and yet people call the Xbox the fridge. Like, come on. They are both pretty big consoles.
They're pretty hefty console sizes. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not comfortable that I don't have a PlayStation 5, but I'm not quite sure where that's coming from right now. Because I'm not that interested in actually playing the PlayStation 5, with the exception of Demon's Souls. And perhaps not even that. I mean, if I get disappointed with Demon's Souls, that's a really sour start for the generation for me, which is also entirely possible. But Lachlan, you get to hang out with your dad to play PlayStation 5.
I do feel the FOMO, though.
You feel the FOMO?
I bought a PS4 at launch, and I got Killzone, Shadow, whatever, and I played it for an hour, and I went, why did I do this? And I barely touched my PlayStation for like a year. So not doing it again. I'm going to wait till at least Ratchet and Clank or something. But I got one for my dad, and I don't know, I was like, at the time I pre-ordered it, I went, I don't need two. I don't want one for me. I'll be fine. And then all these shortages have come through, and I'm like, have I made a huge mistake here? Should I have got this? And like, the only thing that's vaguely appealing is Demon's Souls and I guess Devil May Cry Special Edition. But most of them are just games I've already played, or there's a PS4 version. But I still feel this huge regret for not getting one, even though I'm probably barely going to play it if I actually had one.
Yeah, it's really interesting. It's, I mean, we're probably an interesting cross-section anyway, because we're all heavily invested in video games. So there is that.
It's been all over the news, though. Every single news thing, I'm like, oh, I should have got one.
Yeah. for me, when because we were talking about PlayStation 4 being not a console that people didn't play that much when they got it at the start. Even when I got it about 6 months, I think it was after launch, I still didn't play it much. I was still playing the PS3 a lot for a couple of reasons. Firstly, the PlayStation 3 was still getting games like Trouser Cold Steel released on it, and that there was 100 hours every time one of those games came out, and 100 hours of pure bliss, as it turns out. So there was no reason to retire the PlayStation 3 straight away. The other reason was, I guess, there weren't that many Japanese games that were releasing on PlayStation 4 at start, because the PS4 had a late release in Japan. You may remember it came out a year later in Japan than the rest of the world. So the Japanese developers took their sweet time getting on there. And I distinctly remember, I think the first Japanese game that was released on PlayStation 4 that I ended up spending a lot of time with was Amiga Quintet, that Compile Hearts super pervy game about idols. That was the first one, I think. Or was it Final Fantasy Type 0? One or the other.
I think it was Amiga Quintet.
There you go, Amiga Quintet. Because there was also Natural Doctrine, which was that tactics RPG that is impossibly dense to get into, which I quite enjoyed, but I played that on the Vita, so I didn't even have that on the PS4. So yeah, it was a very long time before the PS4 started to I started to move properly over to the PS4. But yeah, PS5 is
If they had them all on the shelf, I still don't think I'd go out and buy one. It's just that I can't, but I want one.
What would you say would be your system seller? Like if a game was out or out of the currently announced ones, or a game which was coming out, like which would be, okay, I need to get this console. Like for me, it'll be like the proper Astro bot. I'll probably buy a PlayStation 5 when the proper one is out. I know Matt would probably be super excited for Ghost of Tsushima 2. So
I read that review.
That was the greatest effort I put into something that was such a backfire for my personal reputation. That review. I still get emails. People got very angry at me for that email. Very, very angry.
Well, you can do it all again when the sequel comes.
Yeah. No.
Co-op. Do it right now.
There's multiplayers now. You can beat up other samurai, which is cool. Yeah. Of the stuff that's already been announced for PlayStation 5, I think if that Hyperdimension Neptunia remake with ray tracing came out, I would be putting a lot more effort into getting the PS5 than I am right now. I think that was
Clank had a release date. That'll be.
Also, Atelier Ryza. If I had a PlayStation 5, or if I had the opportunity to buy a PlayStation 5, if the stocks went out, if it was on the shelf or whatever, and Atelier Ryza came out, and I had all the options of where to play that, having seen the PS5 version in action, I'd pick that one up just because it's a much prettier version of a game that's meant to be pretty. So I think the PlayStation 5 will have the Japanese games a lot quicker, and hopefully stock levels fix themselves up that I don't miss out on too many of those. I think that's where it is. I tend to feel the FOMO much more keenly when it comes to games than consoles. There's a whole bunch of games that I just have to play as soon as possible. And in fact, I did go out and pre-order something yesterday, the Fire Emblem Special Edition, the limited edition thing. So maybe you all saw the news. This is
That
the day
wasn't free?
The day
after. Free thing.
No. So the day this is a day after Nintendo announced it that we're recording this. So Nintendo announced a re-release of the original Fire Emblem, the NES one, for about $6, I think it is, on the eShop. And they also announced a special limited edition box set thing, which has a replica of the original cartridge. It has like a 220-page art book in the collection. It's a really impressive little limited edition collector's thing. And it's about $80. So I went and pre-ordered that because I had to not miss out on that. So I'm much more software driven when it comes to FOMO, especially when it's some kind of limited edition thing that I really like, which doesn't happen too often, but when it does, I have to have them. Anyway, on that note, we'll wrap this conversation up. Whose turn? Harvard. Harvard has to leave the podcast after this, so you won't hear him again, unfortunately. But thanks for being on, Harvard. Pick a song, any song, to finish up.
I'll go for, I think it's called Lazy Afternoons or whatever from Kingdom Hearts. Good vibes.
That's a good one.
Afternoons. Okay. Well, thanks again for being on, Harvard, and we'll go listen to some music, and we'll be back one person down, but still chatting about all the other interesting things that are happening. Welcome back, everybody. Okay, so we are going to talk about one particular game this week, mostly because it actually comes out next month anyway, so there's some, I guess, some value in talking about it ahead of time in the podcast. And it's also just it's a game that's quite interesting for a lot of reasons, and that is Sakuna of Rice and Rain. So Matt and I have both been playing it, and just to give people who are listening who may be not too familiar with the game a bit of an introduction to it. It is basically a platformer mixed with a Harvest Moon style farming system. So you do 2D platforming, which is a little bit like, I don't know, it's a little bit like a Castlevania kind of thing, really. There's some stats that get thrown around as enemies get killed and whatever. It's pretty active. It's very combat heavy platforming, and you use that to collect resources and things. And then back in your little hub area or your little rest area, you have this plot of land which you need to grow rice. Unlike Harvest Moon, there is only one crop to grow, which is rice. But you need to make sure that you use the right fertilizer so that the rice grows right. You need to make sure that the water levels are kept up or kept at the right level to make the rice grow. Then you need to harvest the rice. You need to then go through the production process, and it's just a constant thing where you go through a full season from when you actually plant the rice seeds to eating it at the other end. And yeah, it's a really nice little game that is very, very Japanese. So Matt, you've been playing it. What would you say is your favorite quality about that game so far?
I like growing rice.
You like growing rice? Good, because that was me too. I wasn't that sold on the platforming, really. It's fine, but
yeah,
I realized pretty early on that it wasn't kind of the focus of the game.
Yeah, it's just the level of detail in it, and in terms of, it's not. I mean, as much as I love Harvest Moon and that kind of stuff, it's not going with that approach of plant something, water it every day, and 7 days it's ready to harvest, and then you get your thing. There's so much, you have to go through every step of creating the fertilizer, fertilizing the ground, tilling the ground, planting the seeds, weeding,
making sure that the seeds are planted the right distance apart.
Yeah, and then the harvesting and then drying the rice and the threshing and hulling and all that kind of stuff. It goes into a lot of detail about the entire process of producing rice in a way that is, I think, quite interesting and not overly complex, but has a lot of depth.
I'd say it's not. You're right. It's not overly complex because each little kind of system is quite simple mechanically, and I don't think anybody's going to get confused by it. It's not like they're going to destroy rice crops because they don't understand what they need to do next. It's all very self-explanatory and quite easy. Actually managing the rice so that it grows nicely is certainly a challenge. But for me, the fact that they put all of those systems in there and they are so, the whole rice growing process is so extended, I don't know, my read on it was that it was just a real sign of respect for rice as a cultural icon in Japan, because rice, as I've discovered, being married to a Japanese person, rice is it's something very special to the Japanese. To us, we just kind of eat it. It works nice with curry, but rice is something really important to them, and this game is one of those games that teaches you to have that respect for the process, the production, and the meaning of rice, which sounds funny again to us because we're white, but it has meaning.
And I think that for me is really the biggest thing, is it's sort of through all those kind of systems of growing the rice, it really explores the cultural weight of it and just the importance of that kind of methodical attention to detail. Like a lot of the systems are quite, I don't know the right word for it, but sort of, it's just very, very methodical, repetitive, almost. Like it's the kind of thing where I can imagine a lot of people go, "Oh, this is really boring," because you have to just do these little quick time events to thresh the rice. But I think it's really explores how just that approach to the care, just I'm losing my words to explain it, but just putting that real sort of focus and time and effort into doing something properly.
It's very disciplined, isn't it? Like I feel like that's the thing about it, because you play as a god, a kami, and she is very undisciplined, as you find out in the kind of the introductory cutscene, that she likes drinking, because gods that look like 12-year-old kids do a lot of drinking in Japan. And she does some stupid things, and then her punishment is to go to this demon island where she needs to tame it, and growing the rice is part of that penalty that she has to deal with. And through doing that, she learns kind of discipline, and I guess that it itself is also very true to the Japanese mindset, I think, in the way of looking at the world, is to live a very kind of disciplined life, and to commit to that. And the way that they work with nature is kind of it's perhaps something that's a little bit lost to modern Japanese culture. I mean, if you live in the cities and whatever, you're not growing rice and things, and it's almost nostalgic. I feel like this game is kind of nostalgic for an older way of thinking in Japan, which is also not very uncommon in their video games. They tend to be very nostalgic about their traditional ways of thinking and philosophy. So, it's a remarkably complex game to think about, and I think the more you know about Japanese culture, and the more invested you are and more interested you are in Japanese culture, the more you'll take it out of this game as well.
Definitely, yeah. And I think, and the other thing is also the way we're talking about it maybe makes it sound real sort of serious and stuffy almost, but it's also quite lighthearted just in the way it's written and the approach to storytelling. It's a lot of, for all the level of detail there, it's a lot of fun. It's very, just lighthearted, lots of humor.
Yeah, they really
very
like
well written.
They like to play with a lot of Japanese mythology storytelling.
Yeah.
Like there's references to Momotaro in there, which is the Peach Boy.
Yeah.
Which is a very famous story in Japan, folklore. There, heaps of references to yokai and their kind of their demons and monsters and stuff. And it's also very cute. Like the first bunch of enemies that you fight are these cute little bunnies. Which I felt a little bit bad for because I like rabbits, but they were trying to hit me with swords and things, so I was just defending myself. But yeah, it's all very cute and it's quite gorgeous as well. Not so much the 2D stuff, and I think one of the reasons I wasn't too interested in the game until I actually started to play it was a lot of the screenshots are focused on the 2D side of things, and they look like an off-brand Vanillaware game in a lot of ways. But without anywhere near the same kind of production standards of a Vanillaware game. But the 3D bit where you're actually growing the rice, that is just a gorgeous set.
Yeah.
They've absolutely nailed it. Everything from the kind of the architecture of the building is just this traditional kind of thatched roof buildings, and the rice itself and the way that the sunlight glistens off the water, because if you've ever seen rice grown, you'd know that you actually have to flood the field for the first couple of months of growing. And yeah, the way that the sunlight glistens off the water. I wish it had a proper photo mode because it would be nice to take photos without all those little kind of quest text popping up and ruining the photo.
Yeah.
It's one of those games that needs a photo mode, and it's for that rice.
You can disable the quest text.
Oh, you can. That's true, but that's kind of manual and stuff. I just want to press a button and take photos.
All the rest of the UI stuff. And just random kind of misc comment about it that just doesn't fit anywhere, but it has to go somewhere. I really like the way it approaches talking particularly about the 2D stuff. Discovering new skills in terms of not really like new special attacks and stuff, because those you just learn over time, but a lot of the basic mechanics of the combat system there right from the beginning. Talking about things like parrying and dodging and all that kind of stuff. But then there's not really any sort of tutorial for them at the beginning, but then you discover scrolls through your exploration that explain how these different mechanics work. And I think it's a really, really interesting approach to, rather than just front-loading a whole lot of different systems and overwhelming a player, or having sort of new mechanics that unlock over time. The way of having everything's here, you can play around and figure it out or yourself, or basically unlock tutorials as you play, which I think is a really interesting approach to some of the more complex side of the combat system.
Yeah, and it is a fairly complex combat system. I think people who enjoy their action combat games will get a lot out of this one as well from that level, because the developers are the same team behind Asteroid, so they know action. They know how to do action, and it's a very energetic, very fluid combat system. It's got at the start, if you're anything like me, then you'll just be kind of button mashing the light and strong attacks like you're playing a Dynasty Warriors game. But then you'll realize how to start using the scarf, your character has a scarf which she can use to wrap around an enemy, and she can either trip the enemy or she can use it to kind of fly past the enemy, kind of whiplash her way past the enemies to get behind them. So if they've got a shield, she can, jump behind them and get some attacks in and stuff. And once you start using that as well, and the full range of tricks that you have at your disposal, it's a really rewarding combat system. So it took me a little while, a little bit longer to get into that, because it wasn't as immediately appealing as planting rice seeds. But once I got into it, I found that to be a very enjoyable system as well. And yeah, they work quite nicely together because the stuff that you pick up in those dungeons is pretty important to what you're doing back in the farm as well. And it's just an eclectic mix. It's not a game that I've played before.
No.
There's nothing quite like it. So when I say, trying to characterize it like Harvest Moon meets 2D platformer isn't really doing it justice, because it's not Harvest Moon. It's just vaguely similar, and it's not really platforming either. It's its own thing. So we don't get too many games that are genuinely where you genuinely struggle to describe what it's like to play, and this one is certainly a good example of that.
It's a game I've been really looking forward to since I first heard about it a couple of years ago, and so I had quite high expectations of it anyway, and it's sort of exceeding those, which is rare, I think, these days, and I'm really happy about that. That's great.
Yeah, it's one of those games I think that's destined. It's going to sell about 12 copies, but I think the people that play it will remember it. I think it's going to be a very memorable game. It's not one of those games that you really enjoy but then forget that you ever played. This is one of those games that you're definitely going to remember for quite a while. And I think in a video I did, I compared it a little bit to Katana Kami, which was a game I played at the start of the year. That in itself is also very different. It's in basic sense, it's a roguelike, but it does the roguelike thing in such a distinctive, original, and different way, and a way that's also very culturally appropriate to Japan, and very, a bit like this one. The more you know about Japan, the more interested you are in Japan, the more you take out of that game. And when I think about the games that I really enjoyed through 2020, the one that immediately springs to mind is the one I played back in January in Katana Kami. And I think this game's going to be much the same. It's 12 months down the track, when I'm thinking about games that I've really enjoyed, this one will pop to mind right up the top. But anyway, we haven't heard from Trent and Lachlan, who fortunately haven't been able to play the game. But I don't know, did we sell you on it? Did we sell you on it? Are you going to give it a go? Are you mildly more interested in it?
I actually put it into my Oz Game Shop shopping cart as you were talking.
Bang,
I'm
there
well
we go.
keen for it.
So we've lifted it from 12 to 13 sales. We'll take the money from the publisher now.
I might buy this Rice Simulator game, but my question is, do you have to do the dungeon crawly, side crawly thingies, or can I just grow rice?
No, you do.
You do?
You do, because you need the resources to make the fertilizer and stuff. And
I just buy them?
No, there's no shop.
There's no shop?
It's you're in exile on a...
So it's not like Harvest Moon. There's no shop, there's no dating, there's no, like...
Can't marry the chicken girl?
No, there's none of that. So yeah, the idea of it is that you play as this goddess, and there are maybe 6 or 7 humans that have ended up in the divine world by accident, and they are all banished to this island, and then the humans need to help the girl to tame the island, and they do that by...
Like there's 6 or 7 dating opportunities.
No, there's no dating in here. No dating. But
most of those humans are children.
Yeah,
so yeah, that's a bit weird of you to say that.
I don't know what this game is. It needs to be.
On top of that, the god is like a child. Like she looks and behaves like a 12-year-old. So there's no dating in this game for a very good reason. But
that makes sense.
The humans do help. Like one of them teaches her how to do the rice, how to farm. Another one ends up being the blacksmith, and you get the resources from the dungeon crawling to get him to turn, to make better equipment for you and stuff. So, yeah, it's perhaps the best way to think about it, I guess, is like Monster Hunter, in that everything that you need you get from the field rather than buy it.
Yeah, but there's sort of a little community which grows, like it sort of has that vibe, does it, or not really? Or
it's not really community driven. Like I said, it's only a group of about 6 or 7 people. Yeah. But they do have very strong, the bonds between them grow as they kind of survive on this island. They all have their own role. There's all these little cutscenes as well that are often quite funny. One of them, one of the humans is a foreigner. I don't know where that she's meant to be from.
I think she's meant to be
French, Dutch.
Dutch, I think.
Mainland Europe somewhere.
Yeah. I kind of looked
Portugal?
up the name to see. Okay, what is the
Actually, Dutch makes more sense now. Than I think about
Dutch makes sense, I think.
Yeah,
That's kind of also the other interesting thing is that it's very. I mean, obviously, very situated in Japanese history and mythology and stuff, but it's not. It's a sort of fictional version of that. So, like the country is referred is called Yamato.
well, that's a riff on Yamatai.
Yeah.
So it's all kind of very adjacent to Japan.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
It's not canon Japanese history or anything. It is a fantasy version. Anyway, yeah. So there is this Dutch girl, and she decides she's going to teach the kids language or something. In one early cutscene, she also cooks, and then she cooks something absolutely terrible that the goddess doesn't like at all. It's got all these like really funny little cutscenes in there as well. So you'll get a sense of personality, community out of it, even though it's not a Harvest Moon like you're living in a town and you're hanging out with these people kind of thing.
I mean, I'd almost compare it to Okami in terms of just the tone and style of it.
Yeah,
obviously a completely different sort of game, but it's got that similar sort of just
inherently Japaneseness.
Yeah,
like the aesthetics and the tone and the storytelling, everything is very authentically Japanese. So, any other questions from the people who haven't played the game? You can pepper us with them. Put your journalist mind caps on.
I've only just seen a few screenshots while I was frantically Googling it while you talked. It looks really pretty, though.
Yeah.
It is pretty. It is pretty.
Yeah, I agree with the statement. It looks nicer in the rice sections than the battling sections. There's this picture in, I don't know if it's artwork or if it's just a render or something, but it's got the light and all that sort of stuff, and it's like, oh yeah, that's what you're trying to go for when you're saying that. But then I look at the battling sections and I'm like, oh, these look a bit boring.
I think it is for me anyway. I just wanted Vanillaware with the 2D stuff.
Yeah,
it looked like
Vanillaware.
It looked like it should have been a Vanillaware game, and Vanillaware uses hand-painted 2D backgrounds, whereas this one uses 3D backgrounds, which makes a lot more sense when you think that the development team is two. They don't have the resources of a Vanillaware, so
two-person studio.
Two-person studio, and they've managed to produce that. It looks fine in the 2D stuff, and the 3D stuff just looks like something that two people should not be able to create.
Oh no, not even close.
I think with contractors and stuff at the height of it, the development team was 4 people.
Yeah,
because they had hired maybe an artist or hired some other roles temporarily who weren't actually part of the company. But yeah, 4 people at its busiest.
I think that's the other thing. It is hyper indie. This is as indie. I don't like using the word indie anymore, but it is as indie development gets, and yet this thing doesn't look or feel anything like it. It doesn't feel like a AAA game, of course. It's not like a blockbuster. But if I didn't know that 2 people made it, I would say a studio of 10, 15 people.
Yeah,
it's that kind of mid-tier kind of Japanese game development studio work. So they're definitely punching well above their weight with this thing as well. Talented developer. All right, I think we'll cut to a break after all of that. Anyway, look forward to the full review of the game. I think the embargo lifts in, November 6 or so, maybe a little bit later. We will have a review up on digitallydownloaded.net, of course. There's a lot to say about this game, but in the meantime, I've also done some video and previews of the first couple of chapters of the game, so you can check those out if you're interested. You should be interested. This is a very good game. There's a reason we put a whole section of the podcast dedicated to it, because we're going to be enthusing about this for a long time. Matt. Hi, Matt.
Hello.
Music time. You're on the spot.
I feel like we should have some music from Sakuna, but I don't know if there's anything
we can find it,
available yet.
Well, how about this? Failing that, let's get some music from Okami, since they are aesthetically similar. So we'll pick some music from Okami, and you can just pretend that the music in Sakuna is roughly the same.
Yeah. Or go the complete opposite direction and get something from Aster Breed, but
Too late.
Probably
Too late.
better.
I've already written it down. It's just here in my notes. The music's all coming, so. And welcome back, everybody. Okay, so for the final section of the podcast, we are going to be talking about boobs. Very, very big ones. Huge ones, massive ones. They break through the screen. In fact, this game should have been VR, because if it did, it'd poke your eyes out. Lachlan of Locked Up Games, he has produced some pretty amusing visual novels in the last couple of years. Max's Big Bust was his original breakout hit, and then last year or 2 years ago, last year, Aluna and Brie, which was basically like Persona, if Persona was done by a one-man indie studio, and it was really good. They're both very enjoyable games, and he's back now with the just released, by the time you're listening to this anyway, the just released Max's Big Bust 2, Max's Bigger Bust, which is a great name for a game, if you ask me. And yeah, it's good. I've played it. I reviewed it. It's up on digitallydownloaded.net. I've given it 4.5 out of 5. And I think the thing that I like most about it is that it is very funny. It's a very funny game.
When you've got a game called Max's Bigger Bust, you kind of have to lean into the humor a lot. No one's going to take it seriously.
Yeah. It's the thing that I really like about your games is that they're anime visual novels with very cute characters with, in this case, huge chests. The two Max's Big Bust games are also gender swap games. So you start out as male characters with male characters, and then something happens and they turn into women. And this time around, Brad, who is a dude at the start of the game, becomes what's her name? Bonnie, and she is very cute. I like Bonnie. But yeah, it's
I need
all
the
very
contrast, because I'm like, I've got giant Max on one side. I need a smaller girl next to her. So.
Yeah, Bonnie is
the comparison.
Bonnie is very petite and very cute. So you've got this anime aesthetic going that is very anime, very fan-servicey anime on top of that. And yet the writing is so distinctly Australian that
very
it's this kind of weird contrast that it makes the game so distinctive and different, and that's really fun. Like, they swear like sailors, and they use Australian swear words, which are going to you're going to have some people.
I'm going to get in trouble with the.
You're going to get in trouble with some people. I mean, the number of times you use the C word, and outside of Australia, that word's just not good, Lachlan.
But with bogans and you see like police and everything, it's like that word's thrown around everywhere. I mean, I throw it around every now and again, not as frequently as the game characters, but I'm like, they're arresting people. I've watched a lot of episodes of like Highway Patrol with Police 10-7. They're not polite and cordial when they're being arrested. So I'm like, I'm going to make it a little bit realistic, Admittedly, I may not have gone for realistic in terms of character designs, but at least in the dialogue.
Looking at the screenshots and admiring the god of sharks.
Oh yeah, Thresher, he's cool.
I'm the literal god of sharks, mate. That's just actual dialogue from the game. Yeah. Game of the year right there.
It is. I mean, and like you've got all these kind of little tiny Australianisms in there as well. Like one of my favorite background scenes is of Max's bedroom, and then out the window she's got a view of the Sydney Harbour Bridge, and it's like a really good view of the Sydney Harbour Bridge. She must live in like Balmain or something. And for people who aren't in Australia and don't really know what Balmain is, if you're living there, you're quite loaded. you're very wealthy. So it's kind of like this subtle storytelling. Now I have this huge kind of backstory that Max is very corrupt as a cop, and like, she's on the take big time. And that's how she's affording this extravagant lifestyle that she's living. But yeah, it's fun. It's got this great sense of humor, Australian humor about it, and yeah. So it's tell us about the development process, because you have had some trouble in getting this game over the line.
Yeah, there's been lots of ups and downs. So Max's Big Bus came out, I think it was 3 or 4 years ago now, the final version, and sold well. People liked it, and I went, great. I've done a fan-servicey dating sim. Now I'm going to make my dream project and make a life sim RPG. But developed, and that was the Luna and Brie, which we talked about last year. But development was a nightmare, and it took ages, and it was a lot more work than I anticipated. And yeah, and when it finally came out, it didn't have the same success that Max did, and I went, damn it, I really wanted this to be the thing that worked. So I started brainstorming, and I'm like, how can I get back to making a game that resonates with? Because I liked Luna and Brie, but it didn't have that. It didn't run, I guess. And then just randomly I went, what about Max's Bigger Bust? And I went, oh, that's it. The title came to me. It sets it up for Max's Biggest Bust with the sequel. It's building groundswell. So I went, just lead into the pun title, and basically I wrote the story around that. Yeah, not the direction I was initially planning to take with my universe, but I think it's going to do really well. I'm really happy with how it turned out. I think while the character designs are ridiculous, I've managed to strike a really good tone with the humor. It's a very ecchi fan-servicey game, but it's not. I don't know. I can't really think of any good examples, but it's not 100% fan service, I guess. Like there is a storyline going on. You can get engaged aside from the sexy pics here and there. And I think by doing it in early access, I'll be able to release like the first couple of chapters, and people are like, oh, what's going to happen here? And hopefully build a bit of a dialogue, like what I did with the first game. And hopefully it does really well. Yeah, I
mean, one of the things, because you are obviously a micro indie developer, one of the things that I love about this space is just how creative people have to get their games over the line and get their creative vision out there. Because I mean, one of the things I really enjoyed about your game was it's clearly some of the sprites you used from the original Max's Big Bus, and the artist is so clearly different that it's almost jarring, but you kind of lean into it and you just write dialogue that explains why they look so different.
Yeah, pretty much.
I just love it. I love that I make my own little visual novels, and you always got to get very creative about what you can do with the assets that you've got access to. Yep. So yeah, the way you've done that is really good fun as well. It's one of those games that, yeah, sure, it's super fan servicey, but it's done with such over the top humor that it's just. I would be very upset if people got offended by this game.
There
will be some, of course, but You know,
Yeah, I can't argue with them on that one. The first game, Max's Big Bust, sure, bit fan servicey, but I could defend it. This one, I can't defend this at all.
But that's the point. You're not even trying to defend it. You just, you've just thrown it out there. For me, it actually has this really good spirit because it's just so uncomplicated in what it's doing. I think it's just well past the point that you can take it seriously enough to get kind of upset by it, I think. Because a lot of fan service games try to be, sexy or whatever. Your game's not really trying to be sexy. I think that's the thing.
It's trying to be funny, mostly.
Yeah, it's trying to be funny. And for me, anyway, the humour landed, so...
Yay, it's good to hear.
So I wanted to also go back. Why do you think Aluna and Bree struggled? Because that was a good game. It was well made. It was really enjoyable. It did the RPG stuff quite nicely, and I thought it was a good Australian VN Persona game. That's a very small category of video games, and yours was the top of it.
I think it was a bit too niche, and I think
yeah.
I kind of shot for the moon and away in what I was trying to add. I wanted to add a combat system and then a Blitzball-esque minigame system and also like a Pokemon Go-esque minigame as well. And I had it all planned out how I wanted it all to interact, but I couldn't get my hands on the beta testing until way later into development. I hired some freelancers to do it, and they did a great job, but the bug testing wasn't able to be done until the end. So all of the balance and everything was just me frantically playing the game for 3 months straight, like on an endless loop, trying to go, was this too hard? Was this too easy?
Yeah.
And I missed a bunch of broken weapons because I was like, if I was a player, I would probably get the second most expensive item, and I missed so much stuff. And I think, like, for an indie team, a visual novel, it's not too hard to polish and make it feel like you've got a really high-end game out of it. Like with budgets and things, you get in the right mindset, you enjoy it. But with these RPGs, I think people have a higher standard, and I just wasn't polished enough, I don't think, to get away with it. I just landed in a funny middle ground between almost but not quite. I do want to go back to it. I've got a lot of plans of things I can fix. After Max's Big Bust 2 is done, I want to do a remaster free upgrade to Aluna and Bree, and I'm hoping that eventually it'll work. And I do want to make more RPGs as well, because I think I love visual novels, but I think you can't just keep writing a visual novel. At least for me, I ran out of ideas. It took me 2 or 3 years to come up with enough plot stuff for Max, and I don't know if I could, like, Max's Big Bust, I could do Biggest Bust. If I do a Biggerest Bust, how out of hand is this going to get? So I think I need to pivot back to RPGs at some point. And I've learned a lot. I'm hoping the next one I do is better.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Visual novels actually are longer than I think most people realize in terms of the amount of writing that goes into them.
Oh, yeah.
You said your first 3 chapters, which are currently available in the early access version, that's 35,000 words or thereabouts. For context, a standard novel, I think, is about 50,000 words. So,
yeah,
it'll
be about 300,000 when it's done, like the first game.
Yeah, I mean, and 300,000 words, you're talking about a very, very long book. So there's actually more words that go into visual novels, on a pound-for-pound basis than literature, than novels. So that's a lot of work.
For my RPG too, though. I love writing. I'd rather just put more character interactions. That's the main thing I tried to go for. With Persona, the RPG stuff was fine and all, but what I really loved about it was like hanging out with characters and making friends, and it kind of felt like you were. Well, I don't know if like a friend simulator is the best way to do it, but it became enjoyable to spend time with these characters. And it was a bit sad when it ended, and that's what I've tried to do with all of my games is try and make it feel like you're hanging out and having a nice time and forming a bit of a relationship. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
Not so much the dating sim elements, but more just the hanging out, and yeah, it's hard to explain.
No, I think pretty much anybody that plays a Persona game would say the same. They'd almost rather there not be the gameplay bits because they just want to hang out with their favorite characters. Or Persona 5 maybe had a little bit better gameplay, but yeah, definitely Persona 3 and 4 in particular. They were games that did not need the dungeon crawling bit to be every bit as good as they ended up being. So yeah. totally with you on that. But your games do have gameplay elements in them. Like there's puzzle stuff in this Max's big
there is
giant bust.
Why do you
adventure
game?
Why do you put gameplay bits in there? What's with this gameplay stuff? You don't need
You need gameplay. You need a bit of a visual novel. The problem is if you get a really engaging one, you can just sit down there for hours and hours, and you knock it out in 5 minutes, and you're like, oh, you're like when you binge read something. Whereas if you've got a puzzle, you have to stop, you have to think for a bit, and it also gives you time to sort of enjoy the game a bit more. Like, padding's not really the right word, but I mean, Persona wouldn't have worked without the gameplay because you need it for story reasons, and you need a bit of conflict. And I think, I don't know, I grew up playing a lot of puzzle games, like Curse of Monkey Island was a huge inspiration for the puzzles in this game. And I was really happy I was able to find a way to make something similar work in a visual novel engine. It gives the opportunity to hide hidden dialogue and find lots of bonus scenes. So in this one, you've got all these different items you can use in the puzzle sections, but if you use the wrong item in the wrong place, like, for example, you might, there's a puzzle where you have to disable a robot girl in a later update, and you can either, this is a small spoiler, you can either throw a smoothie at her, or you can conk her over the head with a giant heavy flashlight. And just the fact that you can find those alternate things is just like, oh, I played it, I did an alternate solution, that was ridiculous. Yeah, I think people enjoy games that they've had a little bit of customization, I guess, and control, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I think there is it's an ongoing debate among people who enjoy visual novels about whether they actually want that kind of interactivity in there. There are a lot of visual novels that have absolutely zero, like the Higurashi games, for example, which are wildly popular and beloved and do not even have a single choice in them. You know, you don't even make a dialogue choice. You're just reading. It's just literally a book with pictures. But then you can go, quite the other way, and for I guess a bigger budget version of the kind of thing that you're doing, there's the Deathmark and Spirit Hunter games, which are horror themed ones, which have full puzzles in there with different solutions that you can work out on how to defeat the ghost and stuff. And based on the way that you defeat the ghost, it will affect how the narrative moves on. So yeah, there are definitely, it's a vibrant space, I think, the visual novel space at the moment. It's kind of really exciting because it is very accessible to make them. And then there's all different ways that people are trying to approach these things. And yeah, I really love finding games such as yours, which are made by one person with a really great idea and doing something different and giving us a different kind of game.
Thanks. Yeah, it's not just me. It's me and a bunch of freelancers, but yeah. And my mom,
well, I mean, you're the creative director. What do you call yourself?
I don't even know. Only person at Locked Up Games.
yeah, that's it. That's an interesting title.
I
Only
am
person.
the company.
Yeah. Executive employee.
Has anyone been really offended by Max's big bust and suggested you should be locked up?
Oh, that's a good one. I'm saving that.
Sorry, I couldn't help myself.
That was good.
But yeah, the feedback that you have got from the games.
Yeah, they've been really well received. Like really, really well received. I think Max's Big Bust one is 97% positive. Aluna and Bree only got 20 odd reviews, but it's still 95% positive. I'm hoping Max's Big Bust 2 gets good reviews. Hopefully it's not. You've gone too far with this one, Lachlan. Negative review, but hopefully that doesn't happen.
I would take a wild guess that the people that enjoyed Max's Big Bust and Aluna and Bree are probably not going to be the kind of people that go, "You've gone too far."
I don't think so. Although,
then again,
you've seen
everybody does have a limit. Yeah, I asked because maybe it was last month, wasn't it? We had another Australian developer behind a fan-servicey visual novel on. That was Tina from Cotton Candy Cyanide, who just released Quantum Suicide. And yeah, the stories of the feedback that she'd been getting was kind of fascinating.
Yeah, very interesting development process too, how that changes over. Was it 5 years? I think it was. I think.
Yeah. She took forever to. She had all kinds of issues with it, unfortunately.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Which made it very difficult for her to get her out there. So I'm really glad for her that she was able to finish it up and get it out there. But it's interesting because she did get criticism for the way that she handled character designs and all that stuff. Like she got criticism for the fan service, but her fan service, but her fan service wasn't nearly as fan servicey as yours.
Oh,
so
I'm in huge trouble.
It's just interesting. I mean, it's a slightly different, markets perhaps. Maybe her game looks like something that perhaps people who aren't interested in fan service might be interested in, whereas yours is quite clear about.
It's what it says on the tin.
Yeah, who it will appeal to. It's just interesting how you can end up with different, responses to these games, based on, I guess, how brazen you are. Perhaps there is
just lead into it.
You're
gonna get internet hate anyway. Just do what gets the most clicks.
I think there's also an element of having something that's so over the top that it's impossible to really take seriously, and be the most kind of sheltered Puritan person to even think it was serious, like trying to be genuinely sexy or anything like that. And so in some ways, I think going too far almost makes it less objectionable. Like
it protects it a little bit.
Yeah. Like thinking about Galgun Double Piece compared to Galgun 2, which kind of toned things down a bit, and in some ways felt kind of more offensive because of that.
Yeah,
it felt less like it was a joke and more like it was just kind of trying to do this thing.
I mean, I think Senran Kagura is another good example. Like the games in Senran Kagura, which are less dumb, tend to be the ones that get less crazy criticism. Or another good example is that Kandakawa Jet Girls, which is just so far over the top that it didn't really get criticized from the same circles that some of the Senran Kagura games have been. So, yeah, there definitely does seem to be that approach that if you're going to go this way, then just throw all in. And
I think self-awareness
people who
too.
aren't. Yeah, self-awareness is definitely important too. Definitely, if you're making fun of yourself in the process of making the game, which Max is biggest.
Oh yeah,
Max's busts
mocks itself constantly.
They do constantly mock themselves, which is again part of that kind of good-naturedness. I think you probably also get a little you probably get a little bit away with it as well because it's so obviously Australian, and people outside of Australia have a certain vision of Australians, which if you kind of fit that, then they're, it's just Australian.
You got to lean into the Australian stuff. It's like, when you go on international holidays, or I guess we can't do that anymore, but you lean into your Aussie accent, like, hey mate, how's it going? And it's just...
You own the room. You absolutely own the room when you do
so
it.
So what you're saying is Australians could get away with anything like pervy or like sexist or like sus in any game. Just be typical Australian, be over the top, and
mate,
it'd be like totally okay. This is where all we should. That's what the market and all the developers should move to. Just move to Australia, and make games based off Australia.
Down for that. Yeah. No, Aussies get away with a lot of stuff.
We really do. We do, especially the swears. Your game, I think your game definitely has a record for the most number of swears.
Bogan police commissioner, he has to he has to swear at people. Like, it's mocking a stereotype while also me being amused at it and just writing more.
So you've got 13 chapters coming in total as planned, and currently there are 3. Now, I'm not great at maths, but that means there are 10 to come, I think. What rate can we expect them to land?
So the plan was originally to be monthly, but now that Steam changed its submission process, it took a bit longer to get through. Yep. So I'm going to release the first couple every 2 weeks, and then it's going to move to a monthly release, and they're going to be about 2 hours long each update. I've done it before with Max's Big Bust 1, and able to write even more this time, so it's going really well.
So that's quite a long visual novel in the end.
Yeah. I've planned it out this time though. The last with Max's Big Buster one, I planned out the majority of it, but this one I've kind of written it like an anime, I guess. I wrote it as if this is a TV show. What would I want to happen over 13 episodes?
Ah, okay, so it's very
I've
episodic.
sketched them all out, very episodic. It's an ongoing storyline, but this is a chapter where they go to the witches and investigate what's going on in that cult. This is a chapter where they go to a theme park. This is a chapter where they have a holiday, and here's one where some plot stuff happened.
Let me guess. By holiday, you do mean just given the general presentation of your game. I'm going to take a wild guess and say beach.
Gold Coast theme park. But
there
close.
We go.
Well, I was going to say, like, if it's framed like an anime, like what happens every time in an anime? It's like let's just randomly go to the beach. It's a beach and barbecue episode.
You need it. I try and tie plot stuff into those beach scenes. I did it the last time.
It's mandatory. You've got to have a beach scene. Every single visual novel series or anime or manga needs a beach. Yep. It's where all the fun stuff happens.
Theme park. Just put it in front of a wave pool. It's the same thing but better.
Is it also going to have a really sort of fun, happy opening song at the start of each chapter, and then a really weirdly sad, depressing closing theme?
This is a mild spoiler, but I actually really want to get a terrible song recorded called Big Busting My Heart, which Max will sing. I want to do it through Fiverr. I am looking into it. I don't have it yet, but I want to make it happen. Surely someone on Fiverr will sing it.
If not, you could sing it yourself.
Pretend to be Max. Hello. No,
well, I mean, that would
do an impersonation.
That would kind of match with her dance moves anyway. That was my favorite scene in the chapters that I've played so far, where they have to do a dance, and the dance is just the sprite flipping left, right, but it so works. Like the little sound effect that you've got going with it, it's just so. I was in stitches laughing actually.
Who needs to buy a second pose?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Just flip back and forth with a little squeak sound, and it's just. Making artistic vision happen on a shoestring budget. It's great. It's really good. Yeah. All right, but no, I wanted to say thank you very much for being on. It's really good because, amongst other things, it seems like Australia started to get some kind of anime development community going. There's like three of us now.
Four. There's another one.
There's another one, is there?
Invert Mouse guy, he comes to conventions as well. You might have met him. Yeah, but there's a couple of us.
Invert Mouse. Let me just check this out.
Actually, haven't played any of his games, but I have seen him at conventions. I think there's, as far as I'm aware, there's you, me, that guy, and Tina.
That's awesome. If there's another one,
which is not really that many people out of 20-odd million, but.
No, but in the scope of the Australian games community, that's actually quite a lot. Like that's an awful lot of people that are making Japanese-styled aesthetic games out of this country. It's pretty cool. It's good fun. It's nice having a little community of people as well in the development industry because, I mean, generally speaking, the Australian games industry mirrors what's going on with America and Europe. It's very Western orientated in terms of aesthetics and game design elements, and the way people think and talk about games is very Western focused. So having people like yourself and Tina, and I'm going to check out this other guy now as well. I'll send him an email. Why have you emailing me? But yeah, having these kind of a community to chat about this stuff about is really cool. I'm really enjoying all of this stuff happening.
Yeah, hopefully we can get some more people over time.
Yeah. I mean, I would think so. I'm sure there are other people out there creating visual novels as well. Other Australians creating visual novels, perhaps with a Western art style or whatever. But yeah, we'll see. We'll certainly see more pop up on Twitch, I think, over time. Mm. Actually, sorry, Twitch, Itch.
You can do a let's play.
Yeah. I'm going to try streaming. I'm going to try streaming Max's Big Bust on Twitch and just see how long it takes for Twitch to ban my account, because that's almost certainly going to happen.
No, go for it. It'll be right. there's no nudity. It's just really fan servicey. Like really fan servicey. But
Well,
no nudity.
I mean, Dead or Alive got banned from Twitch, so.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe you'd get in trouble.
Yeah. And you somehow managed to out Dead or Alive on the bust sizes, so.
Just wait till biggest bust. Coming next year.
I'm pretty sure. I mean, how do you actually fit those into the screen then? Like, it wouldn't fit. Like, the whole screen would just be the bust. Maybe that's the point.
Be the joke.
That's the point.
Just stuck in a room. I can't move. Wouldn't make much of a game.
Yeah,
have all these like background art that is there, but you can't actually see it until you unlock it in a gallery because you can't see past the boobs.
I must say, I do feel sorry for Max. Her back must be in a terrible state by the end of this game.
Oh, she's fine. It's an anime world. She's managing.
She's managing. Yeah. All right. So on all of that note, we'll wrap the podcast up here, I think. Thank you very much again for being on. Let's use some of your music, I guess. Have you got a song that we can use?
Not overly. I'll have to think for a minute.
Gotta go recording that Max's biggest butt song, man.
If not, maybe
I can do this.
Maybe
now's your chance. Just sing it.
We had the battle theme from not singing. I haven't written all of it yet. But
the music from Aluna and Bree.
Aluna and Bree's battle theme worked, I think. That was a good battle theme. I like that a lot. So I guess I'll be lame and suggest that again. Max is mostly Actually, no. I'll send you the file. There's a good song. I'll send you the theme music for Max. It's just music, but it's a good one to play the podcast out on.
Yes, excellent. Thank you very much for that. Yeah, you'll need to send it because we're not going to be able to find it on YouTube. But,
I'll send it. Sending it now.
That's where we usually get our music from, is from the YouTubes. But yeah, thanks again for being on. Best of luck with Max's bigger bust, and I'm sure we'll have you on next year to talk about Max's biggest bust.
Yeah. We'll see if
that'll be the next thing. Thanks everybody for tuning in. As always, I hope that was an interesting podcast. We certainly enjoyed chatting about all this stuff, and thanks to Matt and Trent as always for helping to make this such a vibrant conversation. Stay tuned, have a good month, play lots of games, and we will be back next month with another podcast.